So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the fourth grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's going to become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the fourth grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's going to become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the fourth grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's going to become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say. And I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people. And it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family. Go. And we love. What up, folks? We're back, baby. It's been way too long. I love screaming at you in the beginning and intro. Maddie, how the hell have you been, buddy? You went on some vacation. I took some time off. It was glorious. How you doing, bud?
Yeah. I mean, look at this skin. Can you tell? I was south of Cuba, man. I was all the way down there in the Dominican Republic. It was fantastic.
Bro.
And dude, just good times.
Your skin is looking good, but again, you are always been darker than me, so I just like that's normal.
True. That is true.
It's got more of a golden hue than it usually has, but you're looking real nice.
I appreciate it, man. It was nice. It was, I haven't had a vacation in a while where the whole point is to do nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like sometimes you go away, but family or something, but there's an objective. Hey, we need to go do this, or we need to get this done, or I'm helping somebody move or something. This was like, go there, do nothing. And it was fantastic. It was fantastic. And I know you had some time with family, man. How was your break?
I mean, it was good. I don't know if you can see this hash mark on the side of my face, a little skin cancer surgery, but that's the life of a ginger. And fortunately, I moved to San Diego where it's never sunny whatsoever. So I've been dealing with that. But no, we had a good time. I mean, dude, I am like 2-3 weeks away. We've got like our induction date, dude, 2 weeks away from pretty much having a kid. And that's going to be a wild change. So, Grant, we were talking about meeting up in real life. Before this might be a hot minute before that actually happens, but we will get there eventually because I heard the first couple years of having a baby is pure chaos and I'm not going to be sleeping much, but I'll eventually need to get out of the house. So we will do a meetup in real person.
But, just to say it though, man, I don't think you have too much to worry about. The first couple months, man, you're the dad. So like you really can't do much.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really all on mom.
I know it's all on mom, but I gotta be there. I gotta support, wake. I'm still not gonna be sleeping much, right?
That could be the fact. I don't know. We'll see. That's gonna depend.
Something I did learn that's pretty wild is like breastfeeding is basically like a workout. Like they're ripping through some calories while that happens. I didn't realize how many calories that shit burns.
Yeah. That's
all right.
The secret.
Well, gentlemen, we have an awesome show tonight. Great catching up. It's so good to see a bunch of OGs in chat. That makes my heart flutter, gets me really, really warm. But we got Grant.
Dude, God is in the house.
God's in the house.
Remind me,
bro.
I got to chat with you later, God. We got to catch up.
Dude, we got to catch up, God. So, yeah, we met Grant. I think we didn't physically, we didn't talk in a Twitter space, Grant. I think I met your marketing liaison and I was in an AMA or a Twitter space, looked up your profile, saw that you were doing some stuff that was interesting. So definitely wanted to get you on the show and I'm glad that you're here. But before we start vibing out and having a conversation, want to do the midlife crisis quick warm introduction, starting off with Grant. He's a finance guru. He works in the industry. He's an analyst for a massive company. We won't give the name just so we don't throw it out there, but he works on some big enterprise company finance stuff. Started investing in crypto in 2016 and then began working on Ovation, what we will talk about in Q4 2021. So has been at it for a while. This is not a fly-by-night, give me $3,000 for some stupid PFP and I'll make you a millionaire type of situation. Dude is building a business with Web3 technology. Welcome to the show, Grant. How are you doing, my friend?
Awesome, doing well. Appreciate that intro. Definitely killed it there.
Thanks.
But yeah, really happy to be here. to go over Ovation and just, everything going on in the space.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to have a great conversation. We're going to concentrate a lot on you too, but I actually did mess the intro up a little bit because we did have a fun fact, and that is Grant actually studied abroad in Prague, and one of the things that he concentrated on over there was actually getting the inputs on how business in the EU works. So I think that'll be an interesting conversation as well. But we're going to talk everything, man. And we're going to do that by doing one thing, and that is going through the world famous midlife crisis question. And that is, how did you get to the seat you're sitting in today? Please give us Star Wars episode 1, 2, and 3. And to reiterate that, episode 1 is childhood influences. Episode 2 is professional career. Episode 3 is building that beautiful company, OvationNetwork, Web3 tech influences and beyond. So let's start with episode 1, man. Cannot wait to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say really from the very beginning, I was always interested in entrepreneurship, which is, really led to me how I got here. I remember one of my first business ideas was me and my brother were gonna franchise out a Backyard Burgers. If you guys are familiar with that restaurant chain, fast food chain.
No, I've not heard this. What is a Backyard Burger?
It's Backyard Burgers, but
burgers.
Burgers. So you can imagine the type of food. But I don't know why we chose that. It wasn't like we ate that all the time.
Right.
Maybe we just had it for lunch that day. We were chatting about it. But I was in second grade and all this stuff, and he's just a few years older than me. So from the very beginning, I've always been interested in entrepreneurship. Owning my own business of some sort.
Wait. I gotta cut in right now. Second grade, you're already talking about franchising?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Man.
I would say we weren't chatting about the nitty gritties, but the idea, the dream was there for sure.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was kind of probably my personal first, memory of entrepreneurship and being interested in it. Obviously that's not where I'm at today. Franchising a Backyard Burgers. I think they actually just filed for bankruptcy recently, their second bankruptcy. So maybe it's a good thing I didn't jump into that that industry. But
or maybe because you didn't jump into it is the reason they're filing bankruptcy. Boom.
That's true. Who knows? Maybe I'll get a DM after this. They'll be asking me for my expertise. But that's probably my first memory. It kind of got me into wanting to build a business. I'd say leading up to where I am too in my childhood, one of my neighbors growing up with, we always did little small business things for our neighbors. We had a dog walking company. We did car washes and just kind of random little spurts of a little business, lemonade stands. I'm from Kansas City originally, so we get snow in the winter time. So shoveling snow if we got snow days, off from school. So I feel I always kind of had try to run a business of some sort. Obviously the resources aren't there when you're in middle school, elementary school, high school, but did my best, and you get a lot of experience from doing things like that, as I'm sure you guys are aware. It just kind of teaches you general practices, and so it's helped out a lot. So I would say those from my childhood, those are kind of big influences.
So I guess you already gave us what's enough to talk for the next 4 hours about. So let's just go before, because we like to spend a good chunk on this. And I think you said some interesting things. And what's interesting to me is I would love to hear your kind of mindset, because you're one of the few that has talked about entrepreneurship at such a young age, right? It's usually high school, you're starting to think about working, and you're I'm going to sell some candy in school. But second grade, thinking about franchises is pretty impressive. Couple questions here. First question is, what was the driver there? Was it just curiosity, or my assumption at that young age, it's just money is the driver? Is that true, or is there anything else there of why you were interested in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, money definitely at that age is for sure a big driver. But one thing I came to realize, kind of just through life so far that I've lived, is that I'm pretty hard headed, and I think part of it is not having someone directly always telling me what to do. My whole life is something I'm interested in.
Right.
So I think kind of with entrepreneurship, I see that as a door out of that lifestyle of always having a boss, always being told what to do.
Right.
And so yeah, and I think another thing too is back in that age, I think I always thought like, oh, like being an entrepreneur, like you grind, you get your business, and then it's kick your feet up on the beach and relax. And I realize now that's not what it's like.
Yeah.
It's almost like a 24/7 job, but in a way, with it being a 24/7 job, you still have a lot more freedoms that I've realized with building out Ovation. And whenever you're building something you're passionate about, like you don't mind working on it every day of the week.
Right.
I couldn't personally picture myself working like for a company every day of the week, and always being on call. But with Ovation, that's not a problem at all. And I kind of realize that I get that sense of freedom, with still building it and being active all the time.
Right.
Yeah. So so Mike asked a good question about kind of what the motivation was, but here's my thing. I mean, at second grade, I'm not even sure money was that big of a motivator for me. Where did the concept even get, like, where did you get inceptioned to even think franchising? Was it a parental like role model? Was it, did you have a family member that had a successful business? Were friends, where did that even come from to even think about franchising that early of an age?
Yeah. So no one that I can think of off the top of my head right now is an entrepreneur within my family. Everyone kind of has like your standard, 9-to-5 jobs, whatever that may be, related to finance, teaching, things like that. And also, I guess I should clarify. In second grade, I'm sure I wasn't throwing around the word like franchising and stuff like that.
Right.
Sure.
So at that
but
time,
the thought was there, which is very interesting.
And I'm just curious, like, where it came from. Did you watch a movie or read a book about it, or like what happened that like even made you think that way?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I really don't know, because like I said, I didn't really have those direct family influences of that were business owners or anything like that.
And that's understandable.
I don't know.
It's a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
But maybe I think another way to ask Matt's question is to maybe not specific instances of like remembering exactly the catalyst, but were there influences, mentors, leaders, people that kind of helped mold your brain with this entrepreneurship mindset at any point? And it does not have to be in second grade, but more of your childhood years as you're formulating your brain and growing up. Any role models there that you looked up to?
Yeah, I mean, I would say everyone within my family has always been like supportive of things I'm passionate about, things I'm interested in. There's never been really much like pushback, anyone saying like, oh, that's a dumb idea, or like tell me I should go this path instead of this path. So I think one thing is just having like a strong support system. Yeah, and I guess to fast forward to when me and my neighbor were doing like little like car wash business, dog walking, like shoveling driveways. I mean, I would say maybe just people like giving us a chance, neighbors and people in the neighborhood giving us a chance probably helped drive that motivation as well, giving us the opportunity. Because I mean, let's be real. Do you think a third grader would be giving a car a good wash? We probably weren't doing the best job. But I think just having that support system around and not just telling us no, helps out a lot. It gave us experience at a pretty young age.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So to kind of move us through kind of your high school, middle school years before you get to college. Any other like things of notes or kind of side hustles that you started that you think really impact your mindset?
Yeah, so kind of similar side hustles in high school as kind of growing up, but it was more just like kind of shoveling driveways whenever there was snow on the ground. So that was the main side hustle, I would say, in like high school, middle school time. During our senior year of high school, so in the state of Missouri, it's a law that we have to take a semester of a personal finance class. And so during
Really?
that class,
Huh.
yeah. So I mean, that honestly was what really got me more interested in the studying business in college as
Mm.
well, which we can get to later on. But that class, I guess my main takeaway from that class was a lot about like learning about the stock market and investing and things like that. It went into a lot more details about like saving money, compound interest, all that stuff. But that really piqued my interest. Learning about investing stock market. So once I turned 18, opened up a brokerage account and started investing. Did a little bit of trading. I think my I don't really trade anymore. Most things I buy right now are just like long-term holds.
Yeah.
But back then I was trying to, get into trading and stuff like that. And my strategy was like invested in companies that like horrible news came out about them in hopes that like it would go back up at some point. But like 90% of those companies, I remember off the top of my head, I can remember they were like all filing for bankruptcy. So I don't know why I was buying them. Didn't work out. It wasn't like I was putting tons and tons of money in, but and I always had a job in high school. So yeah, that got me interested as well. Just within like finances and things like that.
Right.
I took an entrepreneurship class in high school as well, which was pretty cool. We ran a like simulation of running a kind of like a convenience store esque type business online. And so, we got a lot of experience on like budgeting, marketing, what inventories we should purchase, what's big within our simulated market online, things like that. So, that was a lot of fun. I thought that was cool. But related to like education in school, in high school and middle school, those were kind of my main business focuses.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also I guess I should mention while we're in this era of my life. So Jack Bliss, our other co-founder, so we actually grew up together, kind of similar how you guys grew up or knew each other for a while. So we grew up in the same neighborhood. I want to say we probably like met like in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you can imagine just kind of like running around the neighborhood, biking, just being outdoors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, and like, we always stayed close in high school and, we can get to this later on when we get to episode 3 or 4,
right.
But, we actually like reconnected with crypto, around the time we both graduated. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. And kind of to expand, like you did a good job there of talking about entrepreneurship and business, but I just say like influences and mindsets in general, like, were you into sports? Were you an avid reader? Did your parents or siblings or grandpa or some type of family member, make an impact throughout these times? Anything there worth of note?
Yeah. So at that time, like in high school, I played sports growing up until my sophomore year of high school. So I played football, basketball always. So, I was always pretty active. And then after that, I joined the debate team in my high school. So, I think that definitely helps out in a lot of, logical thinking as well as, being able to speak publicly. Cause I'd say I probably wasn't the most outgoing person like growing up, but something about like, a debate, you got to talk. It forces you to speak, in front of others. So learned a lot in that. But yeah, so I mentioned I played sports, and then I was always a big gamer growing up too, which
Nice.
I think it's kind of interesting. I feel like a lot of people in Web3 were gamers at some point in their life or still are. I feel like there's a lot of similarities in the communities and what we're interested in. So yeah, I think that probably plays a role too in, how I got here.
Yeah, any thought processes or thoughts about that? Why we've seen the same kind of similarities, a lot of gamers. Any thoughts around that from your perspective?
Yeah, I think one thing would probably be just like being a gamer, especially if you play like multiplayer games, that like online digital community. I think Web3 has a lot of similarities with that, with like Discord groups. You buy this one PFP, then you join a community of other people with that same PFP or whatnot. Whatever it may be. I think that's one thing. Another one would probably be like digital collectibles. Just use Fortnite as an example.
Right.
Everyone always trying to collect like the new skins, whatever they might release into the shop. And so I think those two things, probably an online community as well as digital assets from games where it's like DLC packs or skins. I was a big Call of Duty fan growing up. So, always had to buy like the new DLC that came out or the new like gun camos. So yeah, and I think it's interesting, we see how a lot of Web3 or, NFTs right now are just like kind of PFPs, usually not much like utility or, not a whole lot going on with the ability to use them. But, I think there's a big intersect between the gaming community and NFTs and Web3 as well. So yeah, I'm super excited to, see how that plays out.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Maddie, any thoughts before we kind of
progress? A couple of things. For sure. I think you make a great point. And then we've discussed this, with other shows, because the gaming community, I just think it's a much shorter mental gap to cover to understand the concept of a digital collectible, because like you said, we're collecting skins or whatever it might be, titles, tags, achievements, right? Whatever it might be, there's been these challenges, and we love that challenge of like, what can I get next? What's the next thing I can get? And that loot crate idea of like, ooh, what am I going to roll? What am I going to get this? Right. And so I think the gaming community has a very easy path mentally, whereas people outside of that, it's like, well, why would I want something, why would I want this to be digital when I can get it in person? It's like, well, you got to learn to think outside the box and see that there's value in that. And there is. So I think that's a great point. One question I have, though, is when you first started, you were talking about the idea of entrepreneurship, not having a boss, working for yourself, and there's a freedom in that, right? Then you took a personal finance class, you learned about investments, you learned that stuff, and then the course of study that you chose was finance, which I think is interesting, because I think we've talked to a lot of people with finance. I think it's an incredible background to have to understand how money works. But why did you choose finance, where typically you get a job, as opposed to something where you would, be the entrepreneur yourself? Or was it just there is no entrepreneurial degree, finance was your stepping stone towards entrepreneurship? What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I let me backtrack actually to my senior year. So whenever I was applying for schools, I was applying to be a biology major, actually, with intentions to become a dentist. And but I think part of that was more of there's almost, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I feel like business majors kind of get a bad rep just because it's, I don't want to say it's an easy major, but like compared to like biochemistry or like engineering, things like that,
like Matt's, so I think Matt's aeronautical engineering degree, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like I could never obtain one of those. So I think in the back of my head, I was like, oh, I don't want to be like a business major. I want to like be someone else or do something else. But like deep down, I knew like this is what I was more interested in. I don't know, I guess probably cared a little bit too much of what people thought about my degree. And whenever I would explain to people like I wanted to be a dentist or whatnot, it was always like to own my own practice as well. So there's always that entrepreneurship.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So, the plan would be to own my own practice. But my first year, I went through the classes, obviously hated it. Wasn't what I wanted to do. So, switched over to a finance degree. So yeah, I guess my intention was, and my university did offer an entrepreneurship minor. I don't think you can major in it, but so I took a few classes in that. Didn't get a minor or anything, but that was an interesting experience too, because we created a simulated business as well, which and we did essentially like a pitch to the class, like if you were to do like a VC pitch.
Right.
Yeah, Mikey did one of those.
I got my master's in tech and entrepreneurship at Maryland, and we had to do a whole. That was our capstone, right? 10-page deck with the pitch.
Yeah. So our company that we pitched, I think it was called like Trendsetters or something, and it was essentially a website where up and coming like fashion designers, like people just with like micro brands, could post or list their items. And I guess the business model you can compare it to is essentially sort of like being the Amazon of like fashion wear. So we can drive the traffic to our website, and you can list your product on our website, but we'd get like a percentage of the sale or of the profit that you generate from your brand. So that was the concept. Didn't pursue it anything further than in the class. Me and one of our group partners, we kind of talked about it, but never pursued it anything past it other than just like chatting about it.
Right.
Which is funny. That's where most businesses die. They talk about it, and then you don't take action, and then it's dead in the water. So I think that answered your question about what kind of got me into taking the finance route. Just necessarily it being business related.
Sure.
And I guess
Well, it's fundamentals, right? It's still a great degree. Even if you wanted to own a business, finance is a great thing to study.
Right.
Right.
I was just curious if something had changed, because I will say, I know several people that like the idea of entrepreneurship, but then they get that like kind of Wolf of Wall Street bug, because there's just something about that like trading floor that's just it can pull. If you have a certain personality, it's so cutthroat, but man, the winnings out of that are just so crazy. And so, if you have a little bit of Vegas in you, it's easy to quickly divert from entrepreneurship to that trade floor. I just didn't know if maybe it was a little bit of that.
I definitely watched that movie. Thought it was pretty good. But yeah, I don't, it may have influenced me some.
Sure.
Nothing that, that I can like think of off the top of my head. If anything, that movie in a sense almost impresses me, because the first part's all crazy and wild, he's living a good life, and then the second part you just watch the roller coaster fall off, and it's just
man. It's like watching Scarface. It's like watching Scarface. I'm like, I'll watch the first half, but I can't watch it after that.
Dude, there's so many good scenes in that movie, though. There's so many good scenes. So, I think you did. I think that makes sense. I mean, I think it's something you're interested in. You're passionate about it. Anything from childhood or influences, mindsets there? Because I think you're going to have a lot to talk to later on about, like, I think you made the comment in the beginning, which I'm interested is like, everyone wants to be Elon Musk and Zuckerberg, like this shiny little, names that are out there. But when you actually start doing it, you're like, this sucks. So you actually realize it's not working harder than just retiring at the beach. So I think that'll be an interesting conversation. But before we kind of progress to your episode 2 and kind of more getting into college and working in the real world, anything else? And if not, no big deal.
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
If anything comes up, though, we can maybe do like a little flashback back to episode 1.
Sure. No problem. No, that was great. That was a good one.
Yeah.
So take us through that. It seems like, you've got this business mindset. You've dabbled in entrepreneurship with some side hustles. You decide on finance. You go to college. We don't need to really spend a ton of time on college, but like take us through again, any influences through college, if there are some there, and then like getting into the working world and the professional world. Take us through that journey.
Yeah. Influences in college. I think at that time I was still like pretty interested in like investing and trading and things like that. So I remember like just always listening to like podcasts or speeches by like big like hedge fund managers like Ray Dalio, Bill Ackman, like things like that.
Right.
But they definitely do teach some good principles. The things specific to like investing and stuff like that. I would say the biggest key takeaway that I can just like name off the top of my head is just like being in it for the long run. Don't worry too much about minor changes within the market or like minor changes in your life. Think about it from like a expanded trajectory, and base it off of that rather than day by day.
Dude, I
just as
love
long as
that tidbit
yeah,
because, like, that is a good analogy for life, to be honest.
hmm
That
right,
just small investing tip, whether it be business or relationships or anything, you got to be there for
yeah,
the long run, right? We saw what happened in 2021 when everyone thought they were going to be millionaires. There was a lot of money lost.
yeah, absolutely. It's insane. And I feel like the people that lost the most were the people that were just trying to get that quick little change, little gain in their life. But I think if you go into it thinking like, all right, is this like a good long-term decision? This is everything in life. I think that's the way you should progress with things.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. 100%. Yeah, you got to play
So,
that. You got to play that long
so
game.
you're learning these principles. Keep on going, brother, because this is all fascinating to us.
Yeah, so I would say that, like I said, majority of my during my college career, aside from my classes, investing slash trading was probably the most entrepreneurial activity I had up until my last semester of college. I started getting a little bit into real estate with one of my roommates. Um, what we were doing is we were essentially being marketers for local real estate investors who are like looking to flip homes or hold or buy the house and rent it out. So essentially, we were doing a lot of marketing for them as a business. We'd also go into these properties and like do a property analysis, things like that. So I ended up doing that for about a year. It was the final 6 months of my college career, and then the following 6 months after that. And really, at the end of the day, learned a lot because I do want to get into like real estate investing at some point as like on the side, just like owning rental properties.
Yeah.
But so that was like my first introduction to all of that. Learned a lot, made a lot of connections too. Everyone was super helpful that we met within the space. But I realized pretty early on doing that I did not like being doing the marketing that I was doing. It was a ton of cold calling, and
Right.
you know how cold calling can get if you guys have worked one of those jobs. Getting cussed out a lot. It's not very fun.
Yeah.
Opinion, and I feel like I personally don't have that personality to just get like cussed out back to back to back and just wake up with a smile and do it again. That's not more my thing. So again, we did that for about a year. And then we ended up kind of like closing up shop, essentially, just moving on to different things. But yeah, that's really the wrap up of my college career. I feel like there's a lot less details than my younger ambition of being a franchiser of a backyard burgers, but I kind of stayed on the same kind of path of just focusing on school and keeping up with like the stock market. And I guess as well as crypto. So I graduated from high school in 2016, which is around the time that I started investing in crypto originally.
Right.
So yeah, and that was just like I wasn't like super heavily into it, just buying like the blue chips, like mainly just Bitcoin at that time, Ethereum later on, and it was literally just those two. Those were really my only interests. And I feel like everyone has those stories. I can vividly remember like my freshman and sophomore year of high school, just playing video games. And I followed this Twitter account. It was a bot, but it would just always send out like price updates of Bitcoin. And like, I didn't know anything about it at that time, but it'd be like, Bitcoin is like $100 or $50, whatever it was. But, I didn't take any action on it. I was just like, oh, this is interesting. Like this digital assets, like fly like through the flying price up and down, fluctuating a lot. So I guess that was my first introduction to cryptocurrency, was just like seeing this Twitter page that would tweet price updates. And then a few years later in 2016, I actually purchased some crypto.
So what was it that kind of got you into it? Fascinating. Again, more the just, wow, I'm seeing this stuff actually create value. Did you get deep into the white papers about how it worked? You have the finance background. Love to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, to be honest, at that time, I had no idea or anything about like Bitcoin. I just thought it was like interesting that this like digital asset People can purchase it. It was just like created by an anonymous person. I don't think I ever read the white paper probably until I was in college, more like 2018, 2019 time.
Right.
So yeah, honestly, I don't think I really thought too much about it. I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was worth putting some money into to hold for the long term. I never had like a price prediction or anything like that. I was just like, oh, like let's just buy this and see what happens, essentially. Which back then it's a pretty dumb way, idiotic way to purchase an asset or invest. But now to me, it makes more sense, the value of it.
Right.
And the purpose is like a store of value. So I definitely now kind of agree with the reason of me purchasing it. But at the time, I was just buying it just to buy it, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
So take us through this kind of, you're finding cryptocurrency, you're going through college. Anything to note kind of in your early kind of professional career, where now you're an analyst in the industry, any thought processes there before we kind of turn it solely over into kind of Web3 and what you're doing now? I'd be interested in that journey, if anything is to note there.
Yeah, I would say, working with the bank as an analyst, I'm making credit decisions, every day for companies that we lend to. And I think just working in that field, I kind of understand more like how businesses work. Taking a look at financials. I feel like I just get that insider perspective of, what a lending company is looking at when, looking at a business and seeing if they're healthy or not. So I feel like I have that background or that knowledge of, seeing like, all right, is what we're doing, is that the right path for the company? Is that, going to gain us a net positive in the long run? Because, right now, we may be spending money in this direction. However, will we see that reward in like a few years or later down the road?
Right.
And I feel like that's the big thing about business is you see the rewards, you see the benefits, later on the road. It's not going to be, an immediate instant gratification. It's going to be, delayed, ideally a delayed success.
Right.
If you're putting money and time into the right things.
Right. Yeah. Makes total sense. So yeah, take us through the financial analyst or go ahead, Manny.
Yeah. So here's my question. So then again, kind of going back to, you go through school, you were focused on school, you knew what you wanted to do, you're dabbling in crypto, you get a job. Was the job you have now the one right out of college?
So no, right out of college, I was doing that real estate company.
Okay.
So that we started my last 6 months of school, and then my following 6 months after school, we did that, and we both realized pretty quickly we didn't like the cold calling, so kind of wrapped up shop there. And then after that, I actually started working as a loan originator at another bank, and that's what actually brought me to San Diego. I knew I wanted a change of scenery, to kind of get out of the Midwest. I like I said, I had that finance degree. So initially my thought was to, go work as a loan originator with this bank and then kind of transfer into something else. And also at this time we were working on Ovation. This is kind of like the birth of Ovation around the same time. So, unfortunately we couldn't go full time right out the gates,
Right, which is smart.
So, right, exactly. Couldn't put all of our eggs in one basket. But realized loan originating wasn't really my thing either. It's kind of similar to what I was doing with real estate at my last bit of college and a little bit after that with marketing. It's a lot of calling and just wasn't a big fan of it. So how do you change of scenery and start as an analyst?
Nice.
Got it.
And so that's kind of current. I'm assuming you're splitting time now. Or are you doing Ovation full time now?
Yeah, so I'm splitting time.
Okay.
So, you know, it's quite a grind, you know, not a whole lot of sleep, but
Oh
Sure.
yeah, we know the
yeah.
game. So Maddie, do you
Yeah.
have anything before
Well,
we go into
yeah,
elevator pitch and stuff? I'm sure
just
you have a bunch of things in your mind.
just a couple of thoughts. I mean, one, kudos, because I think a lot of people in this space got so sucked in with this. I'm going all in. I'm quitting my job. I'm only going to do, whether it be Web3, NFTs, crypto, any of these, right? And for some people, the problem was too, was we were surrounded by seeing the very few success stories were very prominent, right? Look at me,
Yeah.
I kissed my job goodbye. Now I'm living in, you know, pick your tropical place. And they're just, it seemed like, man, I got to do that. And I just think it was smart to take a step back and say, let me make sure I have my stuff secure financial wise. Sounds like you paid attention in that personal finance class in high school.
Yeah.
To make sure you had that there, because that gives you, I do believe, especially now with the wariness in the space, I think it gives you some credibility, because it doesn't make me think, okay, you have to make this work. You know, you have to do something, because that's when people tend to make poor decisions. It's like, hey, you have your bases covered and you're doing this on the side so you can do it thoroughly, correctly. You know, is that kind of how you feel in terms of this? Do you feel a lot less pressure because you have that other stuff there, even though it's a lot of work? Is that a good mindset, do you think, for you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, whenever I was doing that real estate business and the last bit of college and a little bit after that, that was my only job too. So, and that was a super stressful trying to, you know, stay afloat with that. And
Yep.
I think that's what I learned, like, um, is also, you know, taking back to when I was younger, you know, I was so focused in on, you know, wanting to be an entrepreneurship and wanting to be my own boss. And I, you know, I tried that out with doing this real estate business, and I was like, okay, like I do want to be my own boss, but you know, it's a little stressful just coming out of the gates and just being my own boss. So maybe I do need to work for a company while I figure my own stuff out and where I'm able to be my own boss. So
You bet.
yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely, it's a lot of work.
I think I could go to my mum and dad
definitely
with, and they would.
a lot less stressful, because instead of being
Yeah.
super stressed to like Ovation needs to be this by this time for me to like be able to pay my rent or whatever, buy groceries. It's more of like,
Exactly.
you know, we can just keep working on Ovation, you know, keep doing what we need to do, and it'll all work out at some point.
Smart.
So yeah, and what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, what you were mentioning about like the people saying like, oh, I just quit my 9 to 5, living on an
Yeah.
island now, like during the bull market. And I think a lot of people are like, yeah, misconstrued when they see that. Is like, you know, on social media, whether it's like Twitter, I know that's where most of like Web3 is at. But, you know, even on Instagram, you know, people are only posting like the highlights of their life or just the parts of their life that they want you to see. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true, or this person who's living on an island isn't in debt, you know, with hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, living over their means. So yeah, I think that's a good point you bring up. It's funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Maddie, anything else?
Yeah, I think it's the other thing I was going to say about that too is I think a misconception is a lot of people think because of Elon and Zuckerberg that entrepreneurs are young. And Mikey, what were you saying? What is the average? The average entrepreneur is not in their 20s or even 30s. What was it like?
It's early
Successful
50s, late
entrepreneurs?
40s, early 50s, because that's when most people have built their, you know, wealth over their year, and they can actually make those decisions. But yeah, for some odd reason, everyone thinks you got to be 21 with no obligations in life.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think those social media like marketer influencers kind of fooled me too. Like back in the day, thinking like, oh, I graduated when I was 23. I did an extra year, or 23 or 22, and I remember I was like, oh, like I'm 22, I'm 23. Like how do I not own my 6-figure, 7-figure business already? You know, like you know, blah 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 is telling me on Instagram I'm, you know, like what am I doing? So yeah, I think, yeah, like you guys said, you know, most entrepreneurs are a lot later in life, and it just goes to show that like experience is the biggest like key thing when it comes to like things like this. You know, it's all about, you know, failing, learning your lesson, and getting up and just like going again.
Yeah, man, and you nailed it there. I was about to layer that on there. One, yes, you're just more financially stable, and once you get through your 40s, and especially when you get to your early 50s, but it's the experience. You just can't put a price tag or go through those failures in the mind. I've always said one of my most impactful experiences in my life so far was just dropping what I thought was the best job in the world and just quitting and moving across the country, right? Blindly moving across the country. Didn't know anyone, anything. Did it because fortunately I was married at the time and I had a wife that probably had had a way more forward-thinking mindset than I did, because if I was just by myself, I would have been scared, right? She kind of drugged me across the country. And I learned so much about myself. I like to say in that year alone, I grew more than I did in the previous 10 years at my job, right? Because there's just these life experiences that really mold you as a person in your mindset. And you just you can't get that when you're 19, right? It's just time that takes. So I think it's a really interesting point that is not said enough, because to your point, we live in the here and now, and who has 1,000 Ethereum in their wallet, which is a very small portion of people. I mean, if you actually look at the numbers, there's like 100 wallets that are manipulating the space right now. Like that's all the trading is, right? But everyone's a millionaire and everyone's making money, it's just a bunch of bullshit, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you a quick question. So you're an analyst and you are evaluating who to loan money to, right?
Yeah.
With that background, because there are people who want to be entrepreneurs, a big part of entrepreneurship is getting capital. What is a piece of advice you would give an up-and-coming entrepreneur or somebody looking to start something? What's something as an analyst that you would say, hey, I know this from the inside. This is what you can do to position yourself well to be worthy of capital from a traditional bank or some loan type institution?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess to preface my answer first, the companies we're lending to, for the most part, aren't startups. So I think it'd be a little bit different that we look at compared to what maybe an up and coming entrepreneur or what us at Ovation are more interested in when it comes to like VC funding or accelerators. But to give you a perspective from my field, with what I currently do with lending, the big thing is looking at financials. And, I know with the VC accelerator process, they're a little bit less interested in your financials because, they expect you to probably, have a negative bottom line. Your net income is probably not positive. So yeah, that's more of our interests within the type of lending I do, is kind of like how's your trends in your financials, essentially. That's the big role. A little bit also on how the specific sector that your business is in, like how it's doing. Like let's say like you're like, for example, like a magazine company, we might be a little bit more hesitant to lend to you versus someone that's like a tech company or something like that, like Microsoft. But so that's more from my lending background. However, when it comes to like the VC accelerator process, which we're currently working on right now, and hopefully have some pretty cool updates, within the next few months for everyone. From what we've understood is the biggest thing is, one, building out that brand, whatever that may be, getting some sort of community. I think a community is pretty important in Web3 right now. And then in addition to that is, building a strong team. Because, like I said, with these early stage companies, you don't really have too much to show on your financials. So, we're going to be investing a lot more into the idea and the founders and the team that you have supporting the idea. So I would say the big thing is, really be dedicated to what you're building, as well as have that strong team beside you that believes in, what you're doing as well. And yeah, that'd be my biggest, advice and tips.
Dude, great advice. Fantastic advice. That's going to make a real nice little short clip, man. Appreciate it. Maddie, great questions, man. Any other thoughts, or were we going to get into Ovation?
Let's do it.
All right, man. So, we'll have more questions here, man. By the way, Grant, you are crushing it. Fantastic conversation, wealth of knowledge, man. Really appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you.
So let's get to the bread and butter. One of the main things why we're here is Ovation. Love to talk about, and you know what? Before, what do you think, Maddie? Should we go straight to elevator pitch or do Genesis story, or elevator pitch then Genesis story? What do you think?
Elevator pitch first.
All right. So this is what we like to do. You just talked about startup investing, and we talked about making decks together. So you got a minute or less. You're in the elevator. Someone asks you about Ovation. You gotta give them the bullet points of what it is and why I should be interested. Take it away, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, Ovation, we're building the NFT social platform. And to put it in the simplest terms for people, it would be to take Twitter, Discord, and OpenSea. So imagine if they had a Web3 baby and popped out Ovation. So that's essentially what we are. So we're bridging these three big platforms that everyone in Web3 is using and merge it into one platform that's dedicated for NFT and crypto enthusiasts. So, you'll have your homepage, which will have like your standard feeds for, you'd be able to post threads, do whatever you'd like, post in the timeline, as well as post NFTs that you own. You'll have a unique profile, which you can earn, unique badges, show off your NFT portfolio, show up projects you're affiliated with, things like that. And then we'll have that private community section, which you see with Discord. So let's say you own a Bored Ape, you'd be in the Bored Ape private community. And then just to top that all off, would have that peer-to-peer marketplace where you can like trade and barter with people. And then also we are integrating a socialize to earn model with our native token OVA, which you would earn based on your interactions on the timeline, which, you could either hold, trade, spend for NFTs or other goods. And, we're trying to create some unique ways to, create value for the users of Ovation, the OVA token. So that's essentially Ovation for you guys.
No, I love it, man. That's a quick breakdown. And just since it's relevant, Twitter is now, I type Twitter in the address bar. I guess it's x.com. What are your thoughts there, man? What are your thoughts on the future of Twitter as a platform, X as a platform, and how do you think opportunities for Ovation with all of this change in these spaces? And you've got Zuckerberg's got Thread. There's a lot of movement and stuff going on in the space. Love your thoughts as you're specifically thinking about these problems.
Yeah, it's definitely going to take some time to start saying X instead of Twitter.
You're right.
But I do like the direction that Twitter's going compared to what it was before Elon. Elon said pretty early on that he wanted to make Twitter a super app where, you have all these, abilities and capabilities that you can do within X or Twitter. And I actually just saw recently that Elon's hired a financial institutions company to help try to integrate like stock trading within Twitter or X. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I think that might have came out today or yesterday. So, as he said, he wants to make Twitter like a financial type app. I don't know if you guys are familiar with WeChat. I believe the Chinese based like social. I think that's kind of the inspiration for the super app because you can do a lot of different things within that application.
Yep.
And he's trying to make Twitter and X similar to that. So I do like the direction it's going, as well as with Threads with Zuckerberg. It's interesting. We hopped on Threads for a little bit. Now we kind of just make a random post here and there. But Threads is a super bare bones application right now. I'd be interested to see what it turns into. Right. Probably pretty similar to Twitter, but who knows? We'll see. But I guess our issue with both of those platforms is that they're not really built out for Web3. You can have a NFT as your profile picture, but essentially that's about it, where it ends to, integrating NFTs and crypto within Twitter.
Right.
One thing I do think is a positive, which is similar to our socialized earn model, is we're able to earn money based on your impressions or the ads that are below your tweets. I think that's a step in the right direction. However, I do think it's a little flawed with, you have to have like 5 million impressions, like 3 months back to back to back. So essentially 15 million impressions within 3 months to be able to earn money based on your tweets.
Right.
And, if you look at I don't think the data is out there, but if you look at the amount of accounts that are eligible for that, it's minuscule. 99% of people, I would assume, aren't reaching that.
Right.
And I think that's one area that I think they could update, and that's kind of with Ovation why we want it to be, everyone's able to earn. It doesn't matter, how big or small you are. Everyone has the opportunity to earn. Right. So yeah, I think it is going in the right direction, but there are some issues that need to get ironed out.
Right. So
go ahead. Let me ask this, just for clarity purposes, and because it'll make a good clip. Mm-hmm. If somebody says, what is the biggest difference? Why Ovation over having Twitter or one of these other platforms, which is already established? What's your immediate just rebuttal to that?
Yeah, I think one, you're able to have all three of these different platform functions in the one application. So, you have the Twitter, Discord, and OpenSea functions all within one platform. And also, we're building a platform dedicated for NFT and crypto enthusiasts. Majority of Twitter isn't used by people that are in the NFTs and crypto. So we're building that platform that's for these people. We know we're in the community every day. We know what we're interested in. We know what the people want, and so we're building that for them.
Right. Okay. I'm good with that. My follow-up question then is because I'm very interested in this. I think it's a fascinating idea, but you've got a couple monumental things working against you. One, creating a social network is one of the most difficult things that you could decide to do. It takes a ton of brain power. It takes a ton of resources. And you've got behemoths like Twitter and all of these other networks that are already out there. And then two, Web3 NFTs obviously have not been great for a while now. I don't think the NFT market will exist like it did in 2021. I think NFTs are going to be more of a iteration of additive technology to other types of businesses. So how are you thinking through those problems? Because there's some pretty massive problems to solve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're completely right that building out a social platform is super difficult, especially now whenever we kind of have, I would say, the big three. We have Facebook, Meta, Twitter, and Instagram. Those are kind of like the big that everyone uses. So it's hard to tap into the market, but I think what makes us unique is one that we're really focused on a super niche industry of Web3. It's not like we're trying to grab everyone and their grandparents and bring them over to Ovation. It's sure. Super specific. So I think that's one thing, and also having, which I know we talked about briefly, I think off camera, but or over Twitter, but Lens Protocol, for example, is what we'll be building on the social graph. Last time I checked, they had over 100,000 Lens profiles minted already. I'm not sure the exact number, but it would definitely be more, but they slowly release profiles. You have to be on a white list.
Yeah.
Or if you want to just purchase one on the secondary market, like OpenSea, you can do that. So, I think we'd have a lot more users on Lens right now, but they're slowly rolling out these profiles. But So yeah, there's already 100,000 people on Lens. So I think there is a market for people interested in Web3 social platforms.
Right.
Whatever that may be. So yeah, it's definitely difficult. And then, I'm sorry, what was the last part of the question?
So I actually think your first response is right. Like that you have to start niche down in a monumental space like that in the social network. So I think your answer is right. You're taking a hyper niche because when you think about how big the Web3 NFT market is, it's actually very, very small. And then the second one is, how do you react to building a platform on an industry that is not doing well, and the future is really unknown, because I think what we saw in 2021, early 2022s might not ever exist again. So how are you thinking through that as the future of NFTs evolve?
Yeah. I would agree with you to a certain extent that NFTs will be a lot more different compared to what we saw during like the peak of the bull market. We were speaking off camera, people or projects were making like millions, essentially just marketing something saying like, yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just like, here's this picture, buy it. And,
Right.
And in 6 months, you won't hear from me again, essentially, and people were, eating that up and loving it. So yeah, I don't think, I think that generation of NFTs is going to be fading out very quickly, especially during the next bull run. Personally, I'm bullish on NFTs. I think the technology is super early. I think there's a lot of super unique and cool ideas that will come out with NFTs. We spoke about gaming earlier in the podcast. I think that's going to get, I think that's going to be probably one of the biggest sectors of NFTs. It's going to be the gaming,
right,
gaming market, and that's actually what got me into NFTs. And Jack and I actually building out Ovation. If we want to, I think you guys want to go to the origin story maybe a little bit later on of Ovation, but that's what got us into it originally was gaming.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's going to evolve a lot. I don't think I don't think the pinnacle of NFTs is going to be profile pictures. I think we're finding our way within the space, and as things progress and technology evolves, there will be that purpose of NFTs. I think you mentioned that you see NFTs being a technology that's integrated within businesses.
Right.
I think that is definitely going to be a purpose of NFTs. I think businesses and corporations will use them a lot too for marketing, but not from what we've seen in the past. I know like Pepsi released NFTs that they're just kind of like random, like dumb, essentially like random PFPs that like have no purpose. But I did read a thread yesterday about the Starbucks NFTs. They've listed a few or released a few collections, and I think they're all above floor price from what the thread said.
They are.
Yeah, so I think there's right ways that corporations and companies can dabble in the NFTs, and I think we're just figuring that out right now because the technology is so early.
Right.
I was a little too young to see kind of the birth and the growth of the internet, but maybe you guys could elaborate. I just picture like the beginning of the internet being, a lot of like random stuff online, not a whole lot of purpose. And the websites that we saw in the beginning of the internet, we don't see today.
Right.
It's a whole different scheme. I don't think people expected to, be shopping online, and here we are, like everyone uses Amazon. So I think NFTs are here to stay. Maybe not necessarily the way we use them now,
right?
But time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you too, and I think we can get into how you see. I'm interested in how you seeing NFTs utilized in your platforms other than PFPs. I think is the question. But to your point, I think Maddie and I talk about this a lot, but one of our buddies, Norm, he's our age and was actually part of like the .com stuff, and actually he's a little older, I think. So he was able to live that and then go through Web3. And I vividly remember we were at the the hate beast party on top of New York high rise, open bar, DJ, all this. And he was like, guys, he was like, I'm telling you, I was at this exact same party in the beginning of the .com, bull run, and then everything fell apart. He's like, mark my words, this is happening again. And exactly as that has happened, right? People are just buying car.com because they could get their hands on it, and then they were creating a website with no business plan. Just like in Web3, people creating PFPs because they knew they could make $1 million overnight, but they had no intentions to do anything. That's what 2020, 21, 22 was. And now the space really does need to evolve. Although it's mind-blowing to me that you sit on Twitter and you still see hundreds of AMAs a day talking about like, when's the next bull run? What's going to happen? And it's all this superficial shit, right? But we're in that phase, man. We're in the very beginning, and the bubbles might have burst already, or there might be one more run, but it's going to burst. And then people are going to really need to figure out how to use this shit.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Plenty of analogies for this. But it reminds me of that guy on Napoleon Dynamite who like still was reliving the high school football days, people
Rico,
constantly
right?
search for that.
Yes.
But here's the thing. I mean, small markets can work, right? I mean, if you think about everyone who has a driver's license, what percentage have a motorcycle license? Very small, right? Of them, how many ride Harleys? Even smaller. But Harley has a diehard community, club system, events, and so to your point, you can make something work in a powerful niche community. It still takes time to build, of course. So I'm not worried about that part per se. But to Mike's point, it is interesting because the market is just so volatile. Like we still don't know where it's going to hone. So you almost have to stay kind of wide before you get narrow to just see which direction it goes. Because to your point, it could go gaming, which is could very well be the direction a lot of this goes towards. It could go towards something totally different in the entrepreneur space in terms of like loyalty, rewards, kind of what Starbucks is doing to create engagement with their loyal followers. We don't know, right? And so you just have to kind of be flexible there. I think that's going to be a big part of what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just use gaming as an example. With Ovation, it's essentially any NFT would be able to be, posted and publicized within Ovation. I envision Ovation, being that platform where the conversation about NFTs and crypto and things like that is carried out on. That's kind of the plan with Ovation. But yeah, I think a big thing, tie it back into like business and stuff is, being able to evolve. If you stick to just one thought process, or this is exactly what the platform is going to be, and you don't take into account others' thoughts, opinions, or just the market in general, then you're not going to succeed at all.
Yep. Exactly. So take us through that origin story. I want to hear that. Just take us through, how did it start? Where did things come from? How did it start building from there? Because you guys have been doing this for a while.
Coming up on 2 years here in a few months. So like I said, I knew Jack in like middle school. We probably first met and started like hanging out in the neighborhood. And we were always friends, or in the same friend group growing up, but we were never like super close. And then after we graduated, we both saw each other, maybe once or twice a year. But at some point, we picked up the conversation about crypto, NFTs, things like that, and just would constantly be chatting about it. This was also during pretty much near the end of the bull run. I think everyone kind of saw the decline happening. So that's kind of when we started chatting. We were like, we need to this is the time to get in and start looking into projects. And so him and I were super heavily interested into like gaming and NFTs and like crypto coins that were tied to games. And so that would be our main focus. And our biggest issue and just annoyance when searching for these is that we'd have to hop from Twitter to Discord to OpenSea to check out like the community, get updates, we'd search for these projects essentially on Twitter or like other third-party apps that would like show, up and coming mints or something like that. So it was just super hard for us to kind of find these games and whatnot that, we were interested in buying. And, we weren't looking for like the blue chips, like Axie Infinity, which at the time was like the biggest game, or like, you could easily find information on that. We're trying to look for these like up and coming, more unique games that maybe aren't as publicized as like Axie Infinity. So yeah, that was the creation of Ovation. Initially we thought of it as just being like a link within your like Twitter profile, which would just take you to your NFT portfolio for others to take a look at. But that, quickly evolved into it being a more complex, NFT dedicated social platform. And what kind of led us into that was Mark Cuban. He has like an NFT company called lazy.com, I think, where it's essentially what we just said, where you have a link in your profile and it just takes you to your NFT portfolio. But that's basically it. There's nothing really unique about it. But, it's pretty lazy. So yeah, so we kind of like, all right, well, like we should do something a little bit more different. Like this is like pretty basic. Like, there's a lot more that could be done within this space. And, like I said, from there, Ovation's kind of evolved to what it is now. And it's, always changing, always growing to kind of like fit what we think, what the users want and also what's best for, what people would be doing on the platform.
Nice. And so we actually have a couple questions. As you started, so take us through, where are you in the building phase? Like when is your beta? What is the platform? When is the platform live? What is current state of Ovation?
Yeah, so we're targeting a alpha/beta launch in Q1 of 2024.
Okay.
So right now we do have a prototype that's essentially 99% built out. There's just a few wiring parts we need to include still, which our CTO Corey, he's the one that kind of is taking care of that and leading that mission right now. So that's where we're at right now, just wrapping up like these nitty gritties of the prototype, but it's all there. It's pretty much all workable. From there, we're working on getting the MVP developed and started. We're targeting that to be completed within, the next few months. It's the biggest focus, as you guys will probably know already, is going to be the back end. We have the UI pretty much already cooked up.
Right.
It's really just the back end we need to focus on. But during this whole process of getting the MVP built out, we'll be, we're in the VC accelerator stage right now, kind of like reaching out to advisors, reaching out to firms, just trying to get, our foot in the door and kind of get things rolling on that end. So yeah, our main focus is getting that MVP and the whole VC process.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And up to this point with the MVP, there was a couple questions from the audience, like, are you coding this yourself? Do you have coder buddies? Are you outsourcing that? What does that process look like?
Yeah, so our plan right now, so we haven't started the coding at all yet. So our plan is to keep it in-house as much as possible. So, we do have some connections. Corey knows plenty of people within the space who, are developers. And along with just people that are interested in what we're building, developers that are reaching out and just interested in trying to get involved within the project. So,
right.
We're speaking to a lot of people, ideally trying to keep it in-house. Part of that is because right now we are bootstrapping,
right.
Jack and I are. So, we don't really have the capital to just throw into a consulting firm or like a third party to develop it. And, personally, we think in-house is probably the way to go as well, funds aside, just so, we have, people that are actually, care about Ovation and not just like, okay, like a developer's like, didn't just get this dropped on his desk and he's like, all right, I got to like, develop this platform. We want someone that's going to be there for the long run. So yeah, trying to keep it in-house, but, we'll see where it takes us.
Right. Makes sense. And so you've been at it for 2 years. Has a lot of this just been research? And because I actually surprised to hear like no coding yet. You've been grinding at this for a while. So what are the a couple years have been? I'm assuming a lot of handshaking and research.
Yeah, so I would say probably the first year was a lot of market research from Jack and I. We didn't really start building out the team until the end of 2022, early 2023.
Okay.
So yeah, that first year was just Jack and I on the team, building out the website, Twitter, getting just all the visuals. I don't know if you saw our website, but we have like a intro video of the platform.
Right.
So, getting all of that created was just Jack and I the first year, just getting the content ready to go.
Right.
And then this past eight or so months have been us, actually trying to grow out the business, hire on people, and just, really start getting the whole concept of Ovation rolling.
Yeah, that makes sense. And well, here's the good thing. You're not launching an NFT to ask for people's money. You're actually going and doing what
any business would do.
Most businesses would do, which is totally.
You got to make the pitch. You got to get the money. You got to build an infrastructure.
Yeah, totally make the pitch, build the infrastructure, and try to raise funds traditionally, which is good to see, man.
What are you hearing when you do that? Now that you're in that process of kind of reaching out, what are you hearing back as feedback? I'd be curious.
So I guess to take you back to the first time we met with I guess you could say it was an accelerator Ask type program. It was actually a public company. They're traded on the NYSE, and I think the London Stock Exchange as well. But they reached out to us probably like 5 or 6 months within Ovation. So it was super early, and we were surprised they just like cold emailed us or DM'd us saying like, we'd love to like hop on a call to discuss like the platform, what you're doing. So that was like our first time ever meeting with someone that was like open to offering, capital. And Jack and I, as you'd expect, were super nervous, pretty unprepared, didn't know what to expect. So, I don't want to say they grilled us, they're very respectful, but, there's definitely a lot of questions they were asking that either one, we didn't know, or two, just, didn't have it thought out yet because Ovation was so early.
Right.
And, I think that experience really like, kind of woke us up to, okay, like this is what we should expect. This is what we should know. And we lived and we learned. And so now we are actually meeting with some soon. One accelerator. I don't want to give up the name yet, just because nothing's publicized or anything like that. It's supposed to be kind of kept fairly private. But a lot of people are interested in what we're developing. I think the biggest thing we hear is just like you guys mentioned earlier, it's hard to build a social platform. How are you guys going to execute it? What makes you think people are going to transfer over? So I think that's the big thing they hear. That I think everyone likes the idea that we share it with.
Right.
But it's just the fact of building a social platform.
Right.
Sure.
So go ahead, Manny.
I'm curious. So this is actually coming from chat. Do you currently have some investors? Are you looking for more investors? And how much cash, like in terms of how much capital do you need to raise to be able to get into that next phase? Like what's your goal?
Yeah, so currently right now, no investors. It's just been Jack and I bootstrapping. We're just now getting into the stages of actually reaching out to people about investing. The public company we met with, that was them reaching out to us. Like we weren't even expecting that, but we were like, we might as well hop on this call and just get some insight and see what happens. So yeah, haven't raised any capital yet. We're looking to right now. In regards to a budget, that's one thing we're working through with our VC advisor, who we just recently started working with, because we understand a big part of when it comes to getting this funding from firms is that they want to know, like, exactly where this money is going and what it's being used for. And, you
Right.
know, like
Yeah,
you can't just say, oh, we want 10 million because 10 million would like help out with the platform. You know, you guys like, you know, this money's going here, that money's going there. And also like, here's why. So we're trying to build out a detailed budget of, you know, where exactly this money would go. You know, as you guys can imagine, a lot of it right now is going to go towards developing, you know, getting the app, you know, into people's hands. So that would be the main focus of the budget, as well as marketing. For the most part, most of our marketing has been just completely just free, just us grinding out like on Twitter, on Discord, things like that. We did start recently working with a marketing agency, Blue Ship, but you know, aside from that, we just started about a month ago. It's been just, you know, us completely free, just connecting with the community, which I think in Web3 goes a super long way. Just like DMing people, replying. You know, everyone that we've met and, you know, made connections with has just all been from us, just like cold contacting people.
True. Yeah, I mean, my advice to you, don't spend any money on marketing until you want to scale. You should be doing everything word of mouth now because you can get it done on Twitter, to be honest. Not even Discord anymore. You can just do it by AMAs and Twitter.
I
would even go so far as to say is if you can't do it that way, money won't help you with that.
Right. People, when people, you know, people in this Web3 space, if they see an ad, they actually, they think it's bad news, right? So like traditional marketing just does not work in this space. Question before we kind of get towards like the future and wrapping up. Believe it or not, we've been talking for an hour and a half, man. We've been grinding and it's been beautiful.
Right.
Crazy.
Knowing what you know now, I want to go back to that one of the early comments that you made. What are 1 to 2 principles that have you've learned or surprised you to be a successful entrepreneur? Those learning experiences, those things that have you've really taken to heart. One of the things that you've popped up that I think is a great one that was actually investing in Vice is doing something over a long period of time. But from your perspective to where you are now, what have been 1 or 2 great learning experiences, entrepreneurship focused?
Yeah, I think one, which kind of relates to investing, is just you know, just staying committed, staying dedicated to the grind. You know, I think you got to be passionate about it. You know, like we mentioned earlier, it's not just a straight upward trajectory. You know, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be like hills and valleys. You know, one day, you know, you might be at an all-time high based on, you know, something like, you know, you got a bunch of followers, had a good tweet blow up, or, you know, had a, you know, good connection within the space. But, you know, the next day, you know, maybe a partnership falls through, or, you know, something, you have a big expense comes up that like you didn't expect. So yeah, I think just, you know, accepting that there's going to be downfalls in the whole process. But I think as long as you're doing the right things and working towards that goal, and you know, just making the right decisions, you know, it'll all work out. So I think just like keeping that attitude that, you know, even though today might have been not as good for the company, it's just overall, you know, have we grown? You know, because if we look back to where Ovation started, you know, we started with 0 followers. You know, we've naturally grown to about just over 4K since yesterday. And so, yeah, you know, like maybe one day we lost followers. To give an example, maybe one day we lost followers, but overall, you know, our followers have increased. So, you know, I think just looking at it from the long run rather than day by day is super important. And I think the other thing is just trying things, trying new things. I feel like, especially in school, you're taught that, you know, there's one way to do something and this is like the right way to do it. But in entrepreneurship, if you read any, you know, startup company's story on how they got to where they are, you'll hear a different thing for each single entrepreneur, you know, whether that be what worked for them, you know, whatever it may be. So I think just trying things and, you know, not thinking this is the right way, this is the only way to do it, is a good mindset to have.
I love it.
You know, there's tons of different ways to get to your goal.
Cool. Any follow-ups, Matt, before I ask my next question?
No, I like that.
All right.
That was good.
Yeah, that'll make some good content right there. So next question, kind of moving towards the future. What are the few things that you think your success really hinges on? Like what are those things?
Great question.
That you think are going to determine the fate of Ovation in the future?
Specific to Ovation?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing is that the NFT market stays around. You know, hopefully this isn't a fad like Beanie Babies or things like that, which I don't think it is personally. So I think that's a quick given. I think another one would be probably just seeing the direction that other social media platforms go, because NFTs, crypto, Web3, it's a whole new industry. So it is possible that other platforms may adopt it, such as Twitter or Threads. However, personally, I don't think they will, just because it's so niche and what we're building specific to NFTs. So I think that's another thing to see how other companies react. And I would say a third one.
If you don't have one, it's totally fine.
I have to have a third.
I'd say I can try to think of a third.
No, you don't have to. Yeah. And I think what you listed is good, but those are external forces and factors. What are internal ones that you have control of? Like, what do you think about? What keeps you up at night to say, I think I need to deliver on X to make this successful?
Yeah, I think one thing is building out the right team. I mentioned that before. You need to build out a team that's passionate, has the same vision of what you want and what you see within the company. So building out the right team has been super important for us. We've been lucky with the core team we've had so far. Has been we all have specific traits that complement each other, which has helped us get to where we are now. So I think continuing to build out a strong team who is passionate is very important. And also just another thing that I'd say that keeps me up at night is just delivering. In a perfect world, I'd have Ovation out by tomorrow. So, right. But of course, that's unrealistic. So I think just keep on pushing every day. Is something that is super, super important in the success of Ovation. Those days that you may want to just rather watch TV than hop in some calls, try to connect and partner up with some projects or do market research, whatever it may be. I think just delivering is obviously the most important thing, and it's a long process, but each day we get closer and closer.
Yeah, I mean, and another way to say what you just said is one of the hardest things in life is discipline, right? Discipline is the key to many successes over centuries. So I think those are all good points, man. So let's do this. Take us through what is the next. We'll kind of wind down, get a little future talk here, and then we have one more question for you that kind of close it out, and then we'll do our takeaways and say our goodbyes and shut it down for the night. But before we get to the last question, the next year of Ovation, what can people expect if they like your Twitter profile or subscribe to your Twitter profile right now and they loved the conversation and want to follow you? What can they expect to see?
Yeah, I would expect to see continued updates within the space or with what we're developing. As I mentioned, that alpha beta launch should be coming here within the next 6 to 8 months. And so, with our Twitter, you'll be seeing updates on that. You'll also be seeing updates on partnerships of projects we're partnering up with, staying up to date with, the whole development process, where we're at within the company, just, sharing milestone updates, whether that's, with the whole VC accelerator process or developing. So yeah, I definitely would expect to just you're literally seeing the birth of Ovation within our Twitter timeline right now. So, you're coming in at a good time. and you'll see the company evolve.
I love it, man. Maddie, any other thoughts, or are we're gonna go to our last question?
So my last question is this, for me at least, in terms of thoughts of what you're saying. Where do you, just curious, and this is, no one can hold you to anything because none of us know the answer. Where do you see this whole space? Because you've made a great analogy of like the .com boom, right? And then the internet. Well, you said the internet coming around.
Yeah.
Where do you see all this in 20 years, 25 years? You know what I mean? When all our kids are on some type of fancy virtual reality webcast or something, having a conversation about this stuff. Where do you see this?
Yeah, I think exactly what you said. You'll see everyone in 20, 25 years on that like VR, metaverse-esque, type platform. And that is truly where I do see it. I know a lot of people give Meta a lot of, talk a lot of trash on their metaverse platform. I don't know if there's a specific name to it. But I think people need to realize that this is, the first iteration of it. It's the first generation. The internet, to go back to the internet that we see today isn't what we saw, 20 or so years ago. Or look at video games, starting off with Pong, and now we have these like massive open worlds like GTA, where you could drive a car off a building, So I do see the metaverse playing a big part in our life, and I think that's where NFTs will tie in heavily. Let's just say, for example, in the metaverse, I have a bunch of art or different outfits that I wear, within that world. I think with Ovation and within the metaverse, you need a place to show off these assets and these items that you have. And I think a social platform is a great way to do that. So that is where I see things going. It's just as we get more, our lives get more immersed into the metaverse or just like the digital life. I think will be a lot more people will be collecting digital assets and be wanting a way to show those off as well.
Yeah, I do firmly believe that's where we're going, but it'll be interesting to see how long it takes, because I think people thought we'd be a lot further than we are currently.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But we, with the whole AI revolution and what's happened over the last year as well, it's going to be a wild time, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's do this, man. Let's start wrapping up. Last question before Maddie and I kind of say our closing comments. We call it a night. We always love to ask this to every guest, and I'm sure you have been in Discord live chats, Twitter AMAs, either been on the stage, been a part of them, maybe been in other podcasts. Love feedback from how you thought your time on Midlife Crisis went tonight compared to other things you've experienced.
Yeah, so this was honestly a great time compared to other podcasts and stuff we've done. So I've done one other podcast, and unfortunately, like the first 20 minutes, I was having technical difficulties. So it was, a little bit of a struggle. But what I really liked about this is you guys make it a lot more personalized. I had a lot of fun with other podcasts I did, but it was a lot more focused on kind of Web3 and Ovation, which is, completely fine. But I think this is a lot more fun of a format.
Yeah.
Kind of just a little bit more casual of a conversation. And also able to throw in information on like Web3, business, Ovation, things like that.
Awesome.
So overall, really good, awesome experience. I would say, and also compared to Spaces, I think this is a lot more fun having webcams on. It's a lot more personalized. You're not just talking to a bored ape; you're talking to an actual human being.
Right.
So it's So I think what you guys are doing is the right way with making it more personalized with the questions as well as the content, just having webcams on, and it was a great experience.
Thanks,
man. So I appreciate it.
Yeah,
That's what we're going for, and we've got a lot of similar feedback, so we appreciate it. I'm gonna give Maddie the floor to kind of say his closing comments. I'll say mine after his, and then once we close out just a couple minutes after off stream. We'll chat and we'll call it a night, man. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate it.
Yeah, go ahead, Matty.
Perfect. So yeah. So listen, man. I mean, here's what's cool. You've been into business entrepreneurship basically your whole life, right? You see the value in it. You see the benefit in it. And what's cool is you've learned that some things work, some things don't work, and this has led you to where you are today. And what I think is fascinating is that a lot of people would see something like this, especially with your background, man. You evaluate whether or not you're going to loan money to other businesses. You know that that's a hurdle, right? Getting capital is difficult. You're not, even though it's daunting, you're pressing forward. You're excited about it. You seem to have a very good idea of where the big challenges are going to come from, right? You know it's difficult to build a social media platform. If you didn't know those type of things, it would be concerning, right? That would be a red flag because it's like, man, I don't think this guy knows what he's getting into. It seems like you do have a good idea of what this is going to take. And I think that you also recognize that things have to kind of swing there are some things that are out of your control that are going to have to work. And that's true in any big venture, right? If you stay focused on what you said, which is build a great team, build a great community, I believe, just like you said, for venture capitalists, right? If they're looking at that, that's going to be a big ticket item. The bottom line is if you create a buzz, if you create a community of people that are excited about something, somebody's going to give you money for it. And so, then the question is, can you deliver? And that's where the process will come out. And that's where the team comes in. So I think if you just focus on those two things, which you're the one that mentioned those in terms of what it takes to be successful, I think this is going to be a really, really amazing adventure for you. And so stay focused on that, man. It's been great having you on here and hearing your thought process. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Awesome. Yeah. Appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, man. And I'll follow it up just to say, one, I always like to time is so valuable, especially as you get older. So giving us your time means the world to us. I appreciate that. And not really even knowing us before, it still amazes me that we can get a complete stranger on, talk for almost 2 hours and just have a fun time like we just did. I love doing it, and I really thank you for that. I would say this. I'm actually going to go the opposite of Matt and just be like, but I think you said the right things, but bro, what you've signed up for is hard. You got a mountain in front of you to climb. And I think the only thing, and Maddie and I talk about this all the time too, is like, dude, at the end of the day, if you want it that much, you just can't give up, right? Because we, and especially Web3 funding in general, like we've have a lot of friends that are just having a hell of a time trying to get money because of the fact that it's Web3 focused. But you can't give up. And building that network, like you said, doing the marketing, the kind of guerrilla marketing that works in this space is going to be invaluable to you. And finally, man, like you've met you met 2 new friends in this space. We're here to help out in any way. Can't wait to continue to keep in touch, grow the friendship, win, learn, fail together as well. And I think that's all we can look forward to, really, right? Is the ride and learning and growing. So I can't wait to see you do that, man. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. We're always open to positive, negative feedback, and looking forward to this friendship growing. And let's do that in-person podcast next time.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
And with that being said, people, Midlife Crisis is out. Like I said in the beginning, I do have a baby on the way. With that new thing coming in the future, we're most likely going to be kicking back to 1 live podcast a week, but we will be concentrating on video content. Our next live podcast will be next Thursday. Old school. You ready for this, Maddie? Guess who that I reached out to? You remember the old NFT projects by the name of Rengoku Legends?
Yes, one of our first guests.
Wow. Well, speaking of gaming, one of our first guests almost 2 years ago, a guy named Drasco, they are building a video game and they are still in the mix. They sold their product out in about 20 seconds, but are still grinding on a video game. It is very rare to have people around that long still building and growing. Drasco next week, Rengoku Legends. We're going to have an awesome conversation, catch up with them. Thank you, everybody, for chatting. It was so cool to see all the OGs. Great vibes in chat. We appreciate you all. Midlife